Hi, I'm Gabriela Houston, the author of The Second Bell, a Slavic fantasy novel about striga and her mother, and the author of the upcoming children's novel, The Wind Child.
And I'm Caroline Hardaker, the author of Composite Creatures, a dystopian literary tale that came out this year, and also two poetry collections as well that came out in the last few years.
That are conveniently placed behind you.
They are actually. I noticed the Composite Creatures, isn't it? It's like on the next shelf up, but I'm going to have to move it down so that they're in a row. But yeah.
Anyway, so this is Bookish Take. It's a video channel where we talk about our writing process from the initial ideas to the scary days of submitting and publishing and beyond.
Yes. And this time, I was really keen to talk about something that's quite close to my heart at the moment, which is writing when you've got a lot on. So being a multitasking writer. So this might be writing when you've got a day job or a big family, or you might be a carer as well, or you've got a lot on, and writing is just one part of it. And I was just going to start a chat with Gabriela about how we manage that in our lives. So Gabriela, you're a mother of two. How does that impact your writing? You busy?
Yeah, I mean, so the funny thing, it really depends on your kids, I guess, how sort of high maintenance they are, how, what other kind of parts of your life are around it, how much support you get. I found having children actually helped to focus me sort of towards writing more regularly. I had to kind of face this reality that, like, if I'm not disciplined enough to do it every day, if I don't find the time to do it, I won't do it. That's the and you need to kind of prioritize. You really need to prioritize and reprioritize what actually matters to you in your life, and then sort of try and find time for it. Obviously, I'm in a kind of, I'm in a situation where I don't have to work, triple shifts, around childcare. It's not. So everyone's situation is different, but for me, actually, I started writing very regularly only after I had my kid. Like when I was on maternity leave,
right.
I finished writing my first unpublished and unpublishable novel, and and then started writing The Second Bell after that. So it did help me, but that being said, there's of course a lot of issues around. You just have to kind of, sometimes you have to close the door and do it if there's someone else to help you with your kids. Sometimes you have to write with your kid on your knee. It's all of that is true, but it doesn't, people focus differently as well. So it's there's people who need absolute silence, and they literally need to lock their door and not have anyone interrupt their train of thought. Whereas it doesn't work very well with kids around. Like if you need that absolute silence, that is a problem, and it does take some adjusting to.
It definitely takes adjusting to, because I mean, I'm in a similar boat now. So my situation changed in January when before that I was working full time, and writing and working full time, and now in January I had a baby, so he's almost 7 months, and I'm finding it harder with the baby to keep writing than I am with a full-time job, mainly because I took a little break at the beginning, which is fair enough. I think everyone needs to do that. But I've started to pick up my current novel at about 4 or 5 months old. And for me, it's infinitely harder because with a day job, I'm a creature of routine, and you have your start hours, you have your finishing hours, and then I always knew that I could come and sit down with my laptop, and I could do, an hour or two from 6, say, every day of the week. But with the little one, it's so much more unpredictable.
Yeah. The
You don't know
predictability of
exactly.
schedule is just out the
Yeah.
window, isn't it?
I mean, I'm trying to be so scheduled, but it just does not work. And you just don't know what's going to happen day to day. And even when they are in bed, and I have that, I'm quite fortunate in that he goes to bed quite early and just wants to go to bed early. But even once he's gone to bed, you can't switch off from that, because there's always the chance that they're going to wake up, or they're going to need something, and you've got so much other stuff to catch up on through the day, which is just life things like washing and cleaning, cooking and tidying. And luckily, you might have a partner to help you with all that, but it's still a lot. And I'm finding it a lot harder now to be as disciplined. But like you, I came to the same conclusion like a month or two ago, which was, it would be so easy to never write again, like to just live like this and just do everything I'm meant to do, like keep everyone happy, make myself happy, concentrate on that. But that's just not what I want at all. And I have to keep focusing on the end goal and think, no, like I want this story to get out there. I want lots of stories to get out there, and thinking about how I'll feel when it's published, thinking about how I'll feel when it's on a shelf, when I'm talking about it to different places. It's just a lot harder to have that drive. And I'm probably one of those people that you mentioned that benefits from having the locked door, and not silence as such, but knowing I can think without being interrupted, which probably is part of the reason why it's harder now than it was, because I'm no longer like that. My brain is split into lots of different areas, but I'm learning to adapt, and that's the important thing. Whereas, like when I wrote with a day job, and I know you used to write with a day job as well, which has its own challenges. I did find like I benefited from a lot of structure, and I could easily fit it in every day. It just felt like part of my working day, to be honest. How did you feel when you were working with a publisher and writing your own stuff at the same time?
I actually found it sometimes more difficult in a way. Like, obviously the schedule is a bit more predictable, but the thing I found is that I felt the kind of creative energy kind of drained a little bit, and the kind of it didn't always work in that way, but with kids, their energy as well, like, helps to kind of recharge my brain, if that makes sense. Whereas with an office job, when you do like admin work or something, it just kind of it makes your brain work in a slightly different way, and it's very hard to then switch back, so to the kind of storytelling mode, to the this sort of creative drive. But like with anything, I think what you were saying about adapting, I think that is the key, really, just your adaptability. And if you don't, your life, whether you have kids or not, whatever job you have, and when you change jobs, or when your situation changes, like, we do live in a kind of constant flux. You can have new relationships, you can have times in your life where your life is more social or less social, and all of that, it's like a spanner in the works if you decide at any point that, like, this is the only way I can work. So I know that, like, there's people who like to have their little rituals around writing. So they, like, they will only write at their desk, and the plant next to their laptop has to be set at this angle, and they need to have their special green tea in a little teapot, and one biscuit for every 1,000 words they write. And we're like, and I don't know, like, and it can get to the point where that ritual sort of build up takes over, and you find you can't work without it. And so in that way, I think it's healthier mentally to try and actually actively shake it up sometimes, and like, you know, work in different places, do different things, because change is inevitable in life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you convince your brain, which is very easy to do, I think, if you convince your brain that this is the only way that I can work, then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, and this will become the only way you can work. If you say, you know, so even saying, oh, well, I'm a creature of habit, and so I will only ever work between, like, on my novel between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then if you have a baby or a new relationship or anything like that, or, you know, your work hours change and you find you can't work between 6 and 7, like, that doesn't mean you give up. Does it mean you kind of stop?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm. That's what I found, totally, because I am that creature. And yeah, I wouldn't say I've suffered at the hands of it, but it's definitely put me in a trickier position now as someone who has tried to be inflexible rather than flexible. I think you're right. If you can adapt your mind so that you can write from different places in the house, write early morning one day, late in the afternoon another day, if you can do 5 minutes here, an hour there, and be adaptable, you probably would do so much better. I don't personally think I can do that in my brain. I think I can take on some of it, but I think one of the things that I've decided recently, which is something I've lost, is having a dedicated space to do it. So I did have a nice study, which is now a nursery. So that's a reality for many people. You know, once you have a family, your space becomes a lot smaller and you don't have the luxury of as many rooms and things. So I'm trying to adapt that to at least having a certain place. And to be honest, I haven't quite decided where that would be or how that will form. It might just be the end of the dining room table.
I mean, having your own place, whatever you do, whether you do creative stuff or not, like, it's having your own corner in your house that is yours, that has your things in it, is important. And it's not.
That's the thing. It's having the stuff there, because one thing I was going to mention is that I've found helps me to keep going with the project even when it's really hard, is to not pack everything away. Because I don't know about you, but I use a lot of big maps, and I draw out timelines, and I draw out mind maps of like all the characters. It just helps me very quickly get into the headspace where I know everything's there and I can write from it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I find it with things that are not writing, because I don't need a huge setup for writing, but for doing art, or for, you know, like practicing music, like if it's packed away, if the instrument is packed away in a wardrobe, I will not. Like this sort of switch from like, oh, maybe I'll practice a little bit, to oh, but I have to get up, go up the stairs, get it from, like, it's just like it becomes insurmountable.
It does, doesn't it? It's a small thing when you think about it, but if you've only got half an hour to, you know, practice the piano or the violin, or you've got half an hour to write something, but 10 minutes of that is setting up your area and getting all the stuff out and rereading it and familiarizing yourself with it again, then that's just an extra barrier that you really don't need. So I think for me, it's really important to keep the stuff out, so that you know what, when I'm wandering around the house, like with the baby or with cleaning up, or, you know, just doing the stuff that you've got to do, it's there, and it kind of keeps it ticking in my head as I go along. It stops it being something that I stop, and it makes me think about it at other times, which I guess is making me more flexible, actually.
So in that sense, you know, like when it comes to sort of multitasking as well, like, what you're saying is, you know, in terms of the setup, that is very, very important. So you have to, but by that I don't mean like this inflexible setup like or routine like I described earlier, but having a sense that this is a priority. I think what it gives you is a sense also that this is a priority in your life. So because your child is a priority in your life, so you have all the things that your child needs, you have set up in a way that is convenient to kind of, you know, give to your child, to sort of to sort of cater to his needs. And then on for writing, you know, or any creative work, if that's a priority, if you make that decision that this is important to you, that this is a priority in your life, and your family and your environment have, like, you know, they have to respect it as well, that this is important to you, then that in a way takes a huge portion of the kind of burden of this setup away. But it is important to find the balance, so it doesn't become this inflexible thing, like I can only work in this small space, like, or during those hours. It's like, I kind of think about it the way in terms of, like, if you sort of do like analogy to like cooking, right? So there's people who will only work to a recipe, and, you know, if the recipe says curly leaf parsley, and they only have flat leaf parsley, they will go out to the shop to get the curly leaf parsley, right? And you have, and that really sort of strangles that creative side, and it kind of, and once you get into that mindset that I need everything set up in a row, I can't substitute any element, like, oh, if I only ever have green tea while I work, then like my Earl Grey tea will not work for the writing process. Like, it, I think it's like those mental traps that we set for ourselves. And I had a conversation about with a friend, not in the context of writing specifically, but just like wider. And she was saying how she needs to police her thoughts in a way that her brain keeps trying to trick her into thinking that she is a certain way, or like, this is the only way I can do things, this is the only way I can function with people, this is the only way I can have a relationship, this is what I like. And it robs her of the opportunities that having more flexibility would offer her.
I get that.
So I think understanding that as humans we can adjust to almost anything, and that we can that you can adjust your schedule. Like, you know, you think you can't, you can, unless it's like some really extreme example of barriers.
And I think that gives a lot of people hope as well, when their circumstances change and their lives become busier, because, you know, their hours change, as you said, or they have family. It can give them a lot of hope that they can adapt, and they will be able to keep going with it, rather than have to give something up. Because you're right in what you said before, and that you've got to make sure that writing remains a priority in your life, because it would be so easy to push to, well, not even to push now, but for it to become something that exists on the periphery of you as a person. And when I was having my son, I was told by a few people, and it really annoyed me actually, that I wouldn't be able to write afterwards. I wouldn't want to, and I wouldn't be able to manage. And they said that about other things.
It's so supportive, isn't it? Like, people can be so supportive.
I know. Well, they didn't mean it in a mean way. They said it more in like a knowing, like, because they'd been there, and they were older people who had picked up writing again in later life. So, and that suits a lot of people, like, and that's fine if that is something you want. If your circumstances do change, and then you feel like you need to spend more time on the other stuff, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's when that's not what you want, and that is the tricky thing. And they told me that, and actually at the time I remember thinking, oh, no way. And when it happened, I thought I could kind of see what they mean, because it would be these headphones are ridiculous.
I'm getting a lot of interference.
Sorry. But yeah, I'll fix that for next time. it would just be very easy to not do it, just out of sheer tiredness and stuff. But when it's something that you truly want and is part of yourself, and it's an awful thing for people to tell you. And I've been part of this. It's been me trying to prove people wrong.
Which is, anything that gets you going is
it's an incentive.
But I think it's so important, this point you just made about how you can't allow other people to set limits on what you can do and tell you, oh, you won't be able to do this, or I've seen people do it in context outside of writing, where my old friend's partner would say, like, she wanted to go to like some on some adventurous holiday, and he was like, no, but you know what, like, you're a city person. You're a city person. Why, I don't think you'll like it. I don't think you would feel happy. I don't think you'd feel secure. You're a city person. It's like why are you putting you're projecting your limitations or your personal style onto someone else? But it can be very difficult to sort of block that out when people tell you who you are or what you can do, what your capabilities are, what your habits are, because you feel like, well, they see it from the outside. They have this almost objective viewpoint of what I can and can't do, what's possible for me. But the truth is that it's all about what you decide is your priority, what is important to you, and losing sight of that can be devastating.
Very much so. But I think, to be honest, I think we're probably reaching the end of this video. But I was going to say at the end, do you have any final tips for people? But actually, interestingly, I think your advice is totally different to mine, because yours is all about being flexible, whereas mine is about being rigid.
We're complementary.
Yeah, I guess. I suppose ultimately, you're right in saying try and be adaptable, try and flex around your life, like work when you can, where you can. And mine is about trying to have a designated space and a designated time. But the truth is, it's whatever suits you best and whatever your time scale allows, I guess, because we all think in such different ways. And because I am a creature of routine, it suits me best to have a dedicated place.
I think, but the truth is, yes, I think most writers would prefer to have a dedicated space, their own desk, a room of their own, and preferably somebody who will make their breakfast, lunch, and dinner for them, and do their cleaning around the house and all that. So yes, I mean, but I think the point is, we're not talking ideal circumstances here. So if you can have a dedicated space, that is brilliant. If you can have a time during a day when nobody bothers you, that is brilliant. And all of those things are incredibly beneficial, and they will help you and your mental state and all that. What I'm saying is, don't necessarily put limits on yourself. So that if you can't have the ideal circumstances, that doesn't mean you can't write.
That is a really good summary of the lessons learned. And to be honest, I feel like this has been more of a therapy session for me than anything else. But that's
anytime. I'll send you the invoice.
That's fine. You do that. But hopefully, some people have found it, something to relate to, if anything, because we all struggle to fit all the different areas of our lives in where we want them to sit. So it would be really interesting to hear if anybody else feels the same way and what their techniques might be. So maybe they could comment or let us know on Twitter or something. That would be great.
All right. Until next time, guys.
Yeah, until next time. Thank you. Bye.